All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Colorado Fatherhood Network's February webinar. I'm going to get us started with just some intro stuff. So if we can start by, if everyone can put in the chat your name, your role, and your organization, so we all have an idea of who is here in this group with us. Glad to see you all here. And I can start introducing myself. My name is Alexa Schaefer. I am the Fatherhood Initiative Manager at the Family Resource Center Association, or FRCA. So, in my role, I manage the Colorado Fatherhood Network. I'm located in Denver, but I work with practitioners around the state. So, give you all a second to throw your info in the chat. Welcome, everyone. Great. Excited to see you all here. Today, our objectives are going to be to learn about the child support system and how it impacts fathers, and also we'll learn about how to best engage with your local child support office to support the dads that you'll work with in your communities. For our agenda, we'll start with this welcome and overview. I have a quick Colorado Fatherhood Network update, and then the bulk of our time will be spent on our special presentation, which is a panel of our child support professionals. During the presentation, I have some questions I'm going to ask the panelists. We have a lot to cover, so I will ask everybody to keep yourselves on mute. If you have questions, please do feel free to put them in the chat. We'll be monitoring, and then at the end, we will hopefully have time for some Q&A to get to some of those questions. But yeah, we want to make sure we make the most of our time with our panelists today. And then at the very end, we will have a brief wrap up and closing. For those of you who are maybe less familiar with us, I want to give a brief overview of the Colorado Fatherhood Network, or the CFN. We are a father-focused, statewide, systems-level professional network for practitioners and programs working with fathers and families. The CFN provides connections, resources, education, evaluation, and advocacy to advance the field of fatherhood and family services. So my one quick update on the Colorado Fatherhood Network is about our new website. Shauna will put the link in the chat for our website, but we did just update our website. So I encourage you all to check it out. I think it looks really like fresh and clean and updated. And so hopefully you can find some useful information on there. There are some new tip sheets that we developed. All of our training recordings are on there, different resources. So definitely check it out. And yeah, hopefully the resources are useful. And with that, we are going to move into our panel. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pull up my questions. So for our panelists, we are going to start with some introductions. I will ask you all to please introduce yourselves, share your current role and your experience that you have working with child support and working with fathers. And I'm just going to go in the order you're on my screen. So John, if you wouldn't mind starting us off.
Mute. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm John Merritt. I am with Montrose County Human Services in the Child Support Program. I am 2-gen case manager / fatherhood / non-custodial parent navigator / parent navigator in our office. I have a lot of different hats in our office. I also offer one-on-one fatherhood classes to our in-house Child Protective Services referrals. They have to be volunteers, but I do that. But I'm also a member of the Delta Montrose Fatherhood Coalition, which is a fairly loose coalition of a lot of different stakeholder agencies in the two-county region here in Western Colorado, Delta and Montrose counties. And we meet quarterly and try and stay in touch with what's going on in fatherhood services. Partner a lot with our local family resource center, Hilltop Family Resources, and their family resource center. So,
Thank you. Shawnee, would you introduce yourself?
Afternoon. I'm Shawnee Comer. I am the Child Support Manager in Prowers County and the Administrator in Kiowa County. I'm been here in Prowers County 34 years. Kiowa County, I do a contract position that I've been there doing it about 4.5 years now. We've had various different programs working with fathers, the Fatherhood program. We had originally several years ago, well, it's been about 12 now, we started out with the COPET program. I don't know how many people are familiar with that. It was a 5-year grant. We did care of that here. We kind of continued to enrolling people and working with dads during that. We've been involved with some of the 2 gym projects, and we've recently become part of the Impacts program. So we've had some pretty extensive background workings with the fathers, fatherhood. Pat Christensen is on our does our fatherhood program, and he's now working our impacts program. And so we work a lot with him, doing all of our referrals and speaking with fathers. And now I'm glad with the impacts we can start working with mothers as well. But we've had some pretty extensive background with all of those.
Thank you. Bonnie Jean, would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Bonnie Jean Jenkins. I am a parenthood coordinator and a fatherhood facilitator with Denver County. I was in child support prior doing modifications. I was a modification tech, modification SME for Denver County Child Support, and then moved over into parenthood, where I've been doing the parenthood work of employment and vocational training with fathers and some mothers. And then we also do utilize impacts. We actually do the same work. When I do parenthood, I'm doing the same thing that impacts does. So some of our cases go straight through to impacts. I send them over. Some of them I keep in my own caseload. In fatherhood facilitation, I do the nurturing fathers classes. I also have a circle of fathers support group that meets twice a month. And I think that's all of it.
Thank you. Selena, would you go next?
Hello, I'm Selena Rakes. I am with Jefferson County. I am currently a supervisor over our performance team who is responsible for training and quality assurance. I have been with Jefferson County 15 years. It'll be 16 years this August. And I've also held different positions in the office. So I do have experience with intake, establishment, modification, and enforcement. And we have a stationed fatherhood program in our office as well. We do have a coordinator for the impacts program, a specialist who manages those referrals. And I do remember COPEP because we also used COPEP. So
Thank you. And last but not least, we have David.
Yeah, thank you, Alexa. My name is David Lawrence, and I am a child support specialist with Arapahoe County. My role is specific to the Parents to Work program, which was built off of the COPEP program. So the Parents to Work program is designed to help anyone who has an open child support case with any of their employment needs, anywhere from being unemployed or just underemployed. We support both CPs and NCPs. Definitely take a 2-gen approach as well. And so that's my primary role with the county. In addition to that, I also facilitate a Nurturing Fathers workshop. So I see Ken is on the call today. So Grateful to have had that training through Ken. And I'm very grateful to be able to be a facilitator of that workshop. I also facilitate a Father's Voice support group. That support group was designed by Sarah Cope, who's also on the call today. And so I'm grateful to be able to, continue supporting that group and having fathers come and talk about their experiences with child support, with parenting disputes, so on and so forth, even just being a father in general. Um, and I guess, part of my qualifications would be that I am a father myself and I pay child support. I have a 16-year-old son, haven't been in his life for a substantial amount of time right now. And so that's difficult. All of the different things that I've been able to help other fathers with, I'm helping myself as well in the process. I'm actually a graduate of the Parents to Work program. I continue to pay child support and continue to try to navigate this system the best I can. And so that helps me relate with some of the fathers that we deal with in our county. So very glad to be here, and thank you for having me today.
Thanks so much for sharing, David, and thank you all for sharing and for being here. A lot of really great perspectives that I think will allow us all to learn so much from you all. So I am going to start with a question for Shawnee. If you can provide an overview of the process by which it is determined whether a parent is required to pay child support.
So how we work those is basically anyone that's receiving public assistance, TANF especially, are referred to our office. Then of course we're going to determine whether they have to pay child support or whether they're involved in a court order that has child support. We also have people that are referred to us from the courts to determine the child support. So the first thing we look at is whether the parents are paying, if they can pay, what their income information is, things like that, to determine if they should pay and how much. Basically, anyone that's receiving TANF, a custodial parent, that non-custodial parent is going to have to basically pay child support to help defray those costs for TANF, and to help promote self-sufficiency for the custodial parent, trying to get that support going. So pretty much our determination is, what their income is, how much time they are spending, the non-custodial spending with the child. Of course, the amount of time visitation overnights that they have with that child is going to determine the amount of child support they're going to pay. If we do have parents that are income is basically pretty much the same, and then they're 50-50 on the parenting time, and they can prove to us that they've got that 50-50 time, then we can work with them as far as possibly having a zero order. That doesn't happen very often, but we do have some of those that do end up with a zero order. I think that's pretty much, I'm not sure what else you want from that part of it. Determining is basically what their income is, and the child comes into play in expenses, and then we'll determine how much and what the amount would be.
Thank you. Selena, we may have covered this a little bit, but could you also give a little bit of an overview of how payments are calculated?
Sure. So every child support obligation is based off of state and federal guidelines that we have implemented in our guidelines calculation, our math calculation. And so the basics of that calculation is going to be monthly gross income, adjustments for other children you're legally responsible for, either residing in your home or that you're court ordered to pay child support for. There is credit for child support that you do pay that is not court ordered, but there's additional documentation required to prove that. Those are all above what we call above the line adjustments. So in addition to that, maintenance paid or received. parenting time is a factor on the guidelines as well. And then below the line adjustments is anything including daycare expenses, health insurance costs, extraordinary medical costs, school fees, potentially school-related costs for the child. And then ultimately, it is determined by that calculation, the amount of child support that is owed by either one parent or the other.
Thank you. And at what point would it be determined that there's a break even that neither parent has to pay?
So that break even, like Shawnee said, is kind of like the circumstances financially and economically between both parents is fairly equal. So usually the income has to be almost identical. The parenting time has to be split 50-50 and either no adjustments below or above the line where it's just based on income and an even split between income and parenting time. Like she said, it is very rare that that actually happens. But it doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
Thank you. And another follow-up in the chat, for either of you or anyone else is aware, on the panel, are the calculations the same throughout the state, or is that different by county?
Those are all the same throughout the state of Colorado, and they are based on state Colorado revised statute and federal guidelines.
Great, thank you. Selena, another question for you. Can you describe some of the enforcement mechanisms that would occur when a parent has not paid child support?
Yes. So there are a multitude of enforcement, what we call remedies or automated enforcement actions. Our state at a glance desk aid has about 21 listed, but that's all automated. There are additional manual enforcement remedies that each county can take. And to kind of give you somewhat of an overview of those is, there's the most common is driver's license suspension, but we have a combination of offsets, different types of offsets, different types of intercepts. We also have some administrative liens that are a part of that, and then multiple license suspensions. And so each of those remedies or enforcement actions each have a very specific selection criteria. And while they all may be similar, there are very small differences between each remedy for which you get selected for. And in order to become compliant for each different remedy, there is different compliance requirements for each as well. The one I will expand on today is the driver's license suspension, which is the most commonly used and utilized enforcement remedy. And the driver's license suspension obviously happens when there is continued non-payment on the case. Or inconsistent payment on the case. So ultimately, in order to gain compliance for the driver's license, once you have actually suspended, is 3 consecutive monthly payments, total monthly payments. So it'll vary from case to case because some cases will have arrears payments. Some cases may just have a minimal amount. It'll depend on the amount of arrears payment between your current amount and what has been negotiated or set on your case. But ultimately, in order to gain compliance for driver's license suspension, you have to make 3 consecutive full monthly payments in order to gain compliance for that driver's license. And so when I say consecutive, they do have to post within the accounting month. So it has to be a full February payment, full March payment, full April payment in order for the system to recognize compliance.
Thank you. Bonnie Jean, could you share or could you describe the modification process?
Sure. So when a non-custodial parent or custodial parent feels that there needs to be a change in the child support, whether a non-custodial parent feels that maybe it's too onerous, or the custodial parent feels that maybe the payment's not enough, or maybe even they would like to give dad a break. The there's no guarantee which way it's going to go. They can request a review and adjustment from their enforcement technician. When they get the review and adjustment packet, it actually has a form on there where they can fill out, explain the reason that they are requesting the modification. And then that form also comes with the financial statement that they can fill out, include the information on their current financial status. Like say a father has decided to go back to school, that will enable him in the future to actually be able to pay more, to actually earn more. And so that's a good reason to say, hey, my circumstances have changed at this time. And so I'd like to review this child support. When the modification technician gets the original request from whichever party, then that technician is going to reach out to the requesting party, let them know they have the documents, and that they are going to now reach out to the non-requesting party, whether it was mother or dad, and they're going to actually get the same documentation from that parent as they did the requesting parent, so that they've got the financial information and all the reasons and all the good stuff together for both parents. That way they can then recalculate child support. Now, they have to have a 10% or more change to the current support order in order to move forward. If they do not have a 10% or more change, then they actually will close the review. They'll inform both parents that the review has been closed for no change, and that's pretty much it. If there is a 10% or more change, whether it's a change up or a change down, then the child support modification tech can go ahead and move forward with filing a motion to the court to change the order. There are a few things here. If a review is closed because it's determined that the guideline worksheet did not come up with the 10% or more change, parents do have the option always of filing their own modification into the courts. So that's something that you can do. Parents should understand that what the courts are looking for is that the child is being supported properly, right? That the child's needs are being met. Some modification technicians, I did this frequently. If you have two parents that you can work with and that you can communicate with both of them, and they can hopefully communicate with each other somewhat, it is possible to actually sometimes craft a stipulation that is an agreement to the two parents, which modifies the current order. But there are some things that the attorney in your office will be looking for and that the court will be looking for. And again, it will be that the support is not so much that a parent is being crippled by that amount and or that the children's needs are being met. So that's always an option. So you can go your own way, file into the court on your own, or you can reach out to your enforcement technician and then request that modification packet. That covers most of it. Once the court reviews the motion, well, your attorney will review the motion, sign off on it, it will get filed to the court. Once it gets filed to the court, then the judge will review, and usually 45, 60 days, that order gets signed as a new order. If someone responds, does not agree with it, then you go into where the court will set a hearing. And there are rules around that and timeframes around that. Sorry guys, I started going further. Let's say I get a motion, a proposed order for child support because dad has said he wants to modify, and I'm looking at the proposed order and I don't agree with what's on the order or the proposal. Maybe the amount I feel is not enough or too much or whatever, I will respond to the court. I've got a time frame, 21 days to do so. Once that response has been filed, then the court is going to set a hearing. That's when both parents get to be in front of the magistrate or the judge and explain both sides. And at that point, it is up to the magistrate or the judge to make that determination which way things go. I think I covered most of it. It's been a while. I haven't filed a modification in a couple of years.
Thank you. Are there supports that you are aware of, Bonnie Jean, that are available for fathers who need assistance with requesting a modification or through that process?
So here's the thing, the child support technicians can't really help you fill out the paperwork. The way I treat it is there's a judicial order that says if you are helping somebody file something to the court, like I do help fathers with APRs and things like that, I can't tell them what to put on their forms, right? What I can do is make sure you're putting the correct information in the correct spot. Okay, so that's the kind of support that can be given. They can't tell you what to say, how to say it. That is up to the parent to do that. All right. Technicians are always going to be helpful, though. I've never had a technician say, "Oh gosh, no, I'm not going to, answer your question," whatever. Right. And you can reach out to your enforcement tech. You can reach out in Denver to the customer care unit. You can call me if you're in our parenthood program. We'll get the documents to you so that you can do the paperwork.
Thank you. I did want to ask if any of the other panelists, if there's any differences in that modification process in your county or what that might look like for folks interacting in other counties, or if it seems to be the same across the board.
I know in Prowers County, it's basically the same.
Same in Jeffco.
Yep. Same in Arapahoe.
Thank you. John, go ahead. Did you want to share what it's like for
I was
you?
just going to say, I think this goes to what Bonnie Jean was saying. Child support workers have to be careful not to appear to be giving legal advice. And so that goes to suggesting what someone should put in this place in this form that may be used in a legal action. We can refer folks, and I often do, to self-help coordinators at the courts, the Sherlocks or SRLCs, that, they can't necessarily give legal advice, but they can help with court forms. However, we have to also, I know that our office's position is that if a party, particularly the petitioner party, the party that opened the case, makes motion to court for a modification without going through child support, that's not really what we want folks to do. We want them to try and petition through our office. Otherwise, it becomes a judicial matter. And also, if it's the petitioner, depending on the county and what's going on with the case, the child support office might look at that and decide, okay, well, we're not going to enforce your case anymore. I don't know when I remember that happening, but I've heard it talked about. So, but I think the self-represented litigant coordinators, the Sherlocks, are a good resource. I know that if someone's just thinking about, do I want to request a review? There's a child support calculator on the state child support website, where someone can put in, what their new income is or whatever, and what they think, the other party might have, to try and get an idea if they ask for a review of their order, will it go up or down? But I wouldn't. I would just caution someone against counting on that too, because they may not know all the factors with the other party. So those are a couple of the resources or ideas that I could think of.
Right. Yeah. So when it comes to actually trying to help someone do this, there is a judicial directive. It's available on the judicial website. I've downloaded it. I use it frequently because it helps guide me on what I can and cannot do. Right. So it keeps me from getting into trouble, but it also allows me to provide procedural direction, which you can do. Right. You cannot give legal advice. But you can provide procedural direction, and that is perfectly fine. And that is frequently it's a big relief to the parents to just understand that part of it. And I do use the self-help, but I have myself too. So
Thank you. And a reminder, we're going to save questions till the end. If you want to put them in the chat now, you totally can. Um, but I want to get through our my questions first. Um, all right. How can practitioners support dads with navigating the child support system? This is kind of open to our whole panel.
Yeah, I'll kind of jump at this one. Once again, my name's David with Arapahoe County, and I work in the Parents to Work program. And so, one of the biggest things that we try to connect with fathers on is number one, just accepting and embracing the situation. Sometimes just that mental hurdle alone can be something that is difficult to overcome. And when you're dealing with that mental hurdle, it makes it that much harder to want to pay child support and want to be able to provide for your children, um, regardless of what the situation may be. Ultimately, it's an opportunity for fathers to be fathers in the sense that they're providing, providing for their family. And so just that initial acceptance, and hopefully that acceptance leads to an embrace. I started off by introducing myself as paying child support myself, and I don't see my son, but I've embraced the child support in the sense that that is my way, my best way to support my son at this point. So I think addressing that with individuals is important to start with. The second thing would be just communication and engagement with your child support technician. A lot of times when enforcement techs are not hearing from parties, they're left with no other option other than to go through enforcement remedies or, assume that things aren't working well because they have no other information. So making sure that there's good communication with the child support office in that county is really important, and building that relationship with your child support technician can go a long way when things do get difficult and when things aren't going well. As long as you're communicating, your child support technician can at least have an idea about where you are in that situation. Um, Along with that communication and engagement comes a certain amount of knowledge sharing, right? There's a lot of information out on the internet. Um, I say information, but a lot of it is misinformation, right? So allowing fathers to get the right information from the horse's mouth, so to speak, right? From the proper source, and making sure that people understand their child support order, understand their rights, understand the processes. Sometimes understanding all of that diminishes the fear that comes along with child support, the intimidation that comes along with quote unquote hearing court often, right? So the more knowledge people have, the more comfortable they are going to be able to take that next step towards a potential barrier or a hurdle in their process. Um, Personal growth and stability, right? I think for a lot of the people that we're dealing with and working with, and until they're able to make sure that they're sustainable as individuals, they're not going to be able to be there to support the rest of their family, right? And be able to meet a child support obligation. So addressing the personal needs that are required is going to be very important, and with that comes support and encouragement. Once again, when we have all of these different fatherhood advocates and child support professionals, and we hear them talk about encouraging us and supporting us, that's where, once again, we're more likely to go into a situation that may be a little bit intimidating and fearful, but we continue to move on forward. And sometimes it takes that to make progress in your life and with your child support case. Along with that just comes community. So pretty much everybody on this panel today has some sort of fatherhood engagement program. And so the more fathers that we can get connected to each other and start to realize that they're not alone in this situation, that can make a big difference as well. I get so many fathers that think that they're in this, they're the only ones that this is happening to. They're the only ones that has this vindictive other party, and their situation is so unique when in fact it's very, very common. Most of our relationships in child support are very similar. And so once people start to realize, oh, I'm not the only one, I've got other people that I can lean on, not just in the child support professional world, but my peers. If I have those people to lean on, then I'm much more encouraged to continue down my path as well. And then lastly would just be resources, right? Just making sure that we have resources available for everybody. Um, in particular for the Parents to Work program, right? We make sure that people are employed. They've got employment assistance, housing assistance, food stability, mental health, legal resources. I think a lot of people are trying to navigate this system without knowing all the help that's available. And so we've got a lot of different individuals from a lot of different counties on this call today. And so there's a lot of help out there. And there's still a lot of people, and I would venture to say the majority of people are trying to navigate this system on their own. And so the more we can advocate for and advertise and show the availability of the help that's available to everybody, I think that's going to make sure that people have everything that they need to navigate this difficult system. And I'll just end on the fact that even with all of those different factors, when we're dealing with people's money and dealing with people's family and their children, it's going to be emotional. It's going to be difficult. There's going to be bumps in the road. So it's never going to be easy, but hopefully we provide people with enough resources and enough of these things that I just mentioned that it makes a difference.
Yeah, you nailed it. Communication, it's so key.
I agree. That was very well said, David. And I would just say the absolute best thing that you can do for your payer is to promote self advocating, because they are their best warriors. They are their best communicators. This is their case, this is their life. And the more they keep in communication with the child support agency, the more your specialist knows what's happening in your personal life. If you're falling on hard times, the more equipped we are to support you and provide those resources and really try and work with you through that process and educate you for that matter. But very well said, David.
I liaise. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I just wanted to chime in too. I'm Christina with the Fatherhood Parenting Program at Jefferson County. And I think one of the things that I love about Jefferson County is the connection between the Fatherhood Program and child support. Originally, it was actually based out of child support, has now gone to HEAS, which is the home, our employment and housing. However, if a child support specialist hears a parent or any parent say, I do not get to see my children, but I pay child support immediately refers that family to me, either regardless if it's a mom or a dad or a grandma, because that's the component that's like that melds it together. Like, oh, there's another voice out there that can help me move through this. Why aren't I getting to see my child? How do I start the process, right? And we often see this and hear this. Oh, I have an employment issue, and then I work back with the child support specialist. Go, is he an impact candidate? Is there another? Or is it a workforce candidate, right? And we go back and forth with this, so that our parents don't feel like they're alone in the process. But again, it takes that network. So if you have a fatherhood program and you have a child support in your county, connect them, right? Make them say that as soon as you hear, I don't get to see my child because I don't pay child support, or I pay child support and I don't get to see a child, that's a remedial referral as to how do we start to engage our parents more.
That's a great point, Christina. Thank you. And that I'm going to jump to that question because that kind of ties in nicely to one of the questions that I had, which was for our panelists to tell us about some successes you've had working with fatherhood programs.
So I can jump in on that one just a little bit. we have a great fatherhood advocate that works in our office here, and he goes to court with us every month. Any of the parents that are in on contempt, potential going to jail, things like that, he jumps up and goes out and talks to them right away, tries, to reason or whatever, gives them good, I won't say advice, but gives them good things to listen to as far as what they can do to keep themselves out of jail. And we have had a lot of success with that, with him talking to some of these people that are on contempt, facing that jail time. We've had really good success in keeping them out of jail, getting them back to the point of wanting to pay support. We've referred them to the courts as well. And I want to say almost all of them that we have up until recently have kept out of jail, he has actually helped them get jobs as well. So they're feeling better about themselves. They're getting jobs, and paying their support. And then we're moving on to, can we see our kids now? He's working with one right now that was potentially going, and got him going again, talking with Pat. And I think we're getting him on the right track. It's just a little slow process. But I will say in Prowers County, we have had incredible success in working with the Fatherhood program to help keep some of these guys out of jail so that they can pay support and see their kids. So kudos for that.
Yeah. I'm going to do a shameless plug. I have Matthew Mitchell on here. He's our fatherhood program coordinator. So I do fatherhood, parenthood, and I liaise with child support a lot. I will do letters because I do a nurturing fathers class, and I also have the support group that meets twice a month for fathers. It's a circle of fathers. So I will do letters for them for court. And this is, of course, if I am seeing them on a regular basis. But if I send them over to Matt to get enrolled in his regular ongoing cycling nurturing fathers classes, Matt's a champion because he does the same thing. He will appear in court with these guys. He does a wonderful job with them. And that's something, if I know someone is participating in nurturing fathers and they're coming to the support group and they have a hearing coming up, I'll write that letter gladly because I know and I hear. I mean, I recently had a father who had a complete epiphany on disciplining his child. And he got that mostly, I think, through nurturing fathers. Granted, he comes to the support group and he shares there. And that's where I heard this huge shift in the way he viewed things. But Matt, kudos, man.
I was also going to say in Jefferson County, the Fatherhood program is a main fixture in contempt court every Friday when we're there. Again, we're supporting all of our family members, regardless of gender. And being there, being an advocate. I'm the first one to stand up and say, hey, could they have a parenting class instead of having to do community services? I've had a person who went to jail and we actually did the parenting program while he was incarcerated, trying to get the bail put together. We got his car removed from the courthouse before it was towed. Simple gestures and or simple presence of an entity such as the fatherhood parenting programs in a court system, I think is huge. We've yet to have a judge say that we could actually use, a mandate of a fatherhood parenting program as a community service requirement or one of the options. I'm not quite sure why we mandate parenting classes for divorce, probation, allocations of parental rights, but I think that as our voices are out there and showing that perhaps this is a more constructive way to use our time and in engaging parents as to what is nurturing for your children other than just doing community service or other than going to jail.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in again real quick. A little bit will be telling on myself a little bit, because I do think there's an opportunity for our county programs to connect with each other. And I started by saying telling on myself because I have connected with Matthew, I have connected with Patrick, but we haven't gone much further than that, right? And I think the ball is in my court on that. But especially counties that are nearby each other, when we talk about building that sense of community and learning from each other, and just building an area where there are multiple fathers and multiple opportunities and multiple settings and different environments for fathers to get together and have different experiences. I think that opportunity is in front of us. And so, yeah, Matthew, I'll be reaching back out to you. Patrick, I'll be reaching back out to you as well. And glad to meet some of you others that are on here as well. And I just hope that we're able to connect in a way that maybe we haven't connected our counties in the past.
That's awesome. Um, John, I will call on you. I'd love for you to share because you mentioned working a lot with family resource centers and fatherhood programs that are not within the county. So I'd love to hear some successes that you have seen with connecting with those fatherhood programs outside of the county system.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this while I was listening to the other panelists, and um, in Montrose, Hilltop is our family resource center partner, and they had one of the federal grants through the early childhood uh, department, and that went away recently. And what they've decided to do is to transition to their own fatherhood program that they found other funding to provide nurturing fathers or similar to nurturing fathers classes. I think they're going to do the NDAP curriculum. But it's interesting how, and I know that not all of our obligors are fathers, but majority are still are. And what we found is that the Impacts program, which Hilltop also has to serve Montrose and Delta County, has kind of acted in many cases as a conduit to the Hilltop Fatherhood program, because there's so many more fathers that are accessing the Impacts program um, than I don't know. I anticipated, I guess, at the beginning. Um, so that so for example, Andrea, who's the Impacts worker at Hilltop, is on our Fatherhood Coalition e-blast and attends quarterly meetings, and so she knows what's going on with different fatherhood providers. So, for example, what I'm doing is I'm not providing group classes. I'm not offering that to the general public, but Hilltop is rebooting and starting a fatherhood, a nurturing fathers or a fatherhood class later this month. I think it's next week. And so we just got a flyer. So we're going to blast that out to the whole coalition. We're going to make sure everybody knows it. Life Choices Center has tried to do nurturing fathers classes at various times in the past. And then there's been some individuals in the coalition who have offered nurturing fathers classes. And so we just try and make a point of touching base at least quarterly and then sharing what is out there and what's available in the two-county region. And it's tenuous sometimes. It really is. And so it's important to make that quarterly connection and make sure there's a email network that's going to people that are still at those agencies. And so that's part of my role, is to keep that email e-blast list updated. Because Hilltop operates in Mesa County, we have with fatherhood as well. We have a connection to their fatherhood program if we have an obligor or a father who's living in Mesa County. That's a much better solution for them, So a much better support for them. I don't know if that's what you were saying, but there have been any number of fathers, yes, that have gone to Impacts and Impacts has connected them with the fatherhood program at Hilltop, and it's kind of almost a natural partnership or connection.
That's great. Thanks so much. And to any of the panelists, you all, it seems like, have really great connections with your fatherhood programs. And but for folks who are working with fathers and maybe don't have that great of a connection with their child support office, what recommendations would you have to build that relationship in order to be able to work together to support the dads in the communities around the state?
I would just say the communication is the key. That that's the one good thing we have going for our county. Granted, yes, it is a smaller county, but more small, medium, I guess. Pat keeps in contact with us on a lot of things, and he does go to court with us to kind of see the people that he might need to help or whatever. And so I think that's the biggest thing is just, maybe if you don't have that connection, go set a day with the child support office, talk to them, bring up names, bring up people that might need help, things like that. Because I think that's kind of how we got started is we just kind of said, hey, come down, visit with us, get to know us, and then we'll throw you in with the other people that need the help. And that was just kind of our starting point. And then he just he's one of us, I guess. So he kind of, he's getting the sort of training with child support, but not, just by listening to what we say and being in our conversations. But I think that's the biggest thing anyone can do is just go down and visit with their people, even if it's not about like clients or anything, just visit and get to know them. And I think that's the biggest step right there. And then it just kind of trickles down.
Yeah, I know that there are some difficulties because you cannot discuss with the child support worker anything about a case, right? They're not going to talk to you about a case. So in Denver, what we have done is, because I do get a lot of referrals from child support, like I said, some I send to Impact, some I keep in my own caseload, but the child support worker gets a release of information before they send that over, which allows me to be able to communicate back to the child support worker. I don't know how much it changes things or enhances things, but I think because I worked in child support for 8 years before moving to parenthood 6 years ago, I still have connections up there. And when I have an ROI and I have a parent who's been referred from child support, I have the ability to go back and talk to that child support technician. So yeah, I don't know how you can manage it in your county, but very definitely getting to know who to reach out to or how to reach out and do that is going to be helpful.
Yeah, and I'll emphasize that as well, right? Just getting in contact with us, right? If the county's not aware of the individual, then obviously we're not going to be able to help. And so once we have those conversations, we can start to determine what services are eligible to individuals and what services aren't. And once again, the more connected we are, we might not have a resource in Arapahoe County, but maybe there's a service in Denver County or Jefferson County or an adjacent county that can help. So just being aware is going to be crucial for us to do anything. So just opening up those lines of communication. I will say that Arapahoe County we have certain eligibility requirements when it comes to receiving human services through Arapahoe County to participate in many of our workshops and support groups and whatnot. But at the same time, there's a lot of different services available through human services. So if anybody's not receiving any sort of service, maybe they're eligible and maybe they can start receiving those services and become more engaged with the fatherhood program that we have available. But yeah, just reach out to us and start the communication and see what happens from there.
I think another really great point is, especially that connectivity between fatherhood programs and child support. Reach out to your child support office and say, hey, the next time you have a meeting, I'd like to take 20 minutes of your time and introduce our program, right? Because those are incredibly helpful skills for a child support specialist to have so that they can actually give a resource and a referral. A lot of times we don't see that. And I emphasize it. If you haven't checked base with your child support service office in 6 months, do it. Do it regularly. Do it annually. Do it every 6 months. Even if there's turnover, there's going to be someone new that hasn't heard about your program that you forgot to connect with. Put it on your calendar. Every 6 months, I need to meet with child support, 20 minutes. Here's our program. This is what we have to offer. We are another service for our parents.
Yeah. We're starting stand-ups again. I'm going to be going up to child support, and my coworker also, to actually go in front of different child support teams and explain our program. Right. So that, yeah, it's something we used to do. It fell off, and we're going to head and starting to redo that again.
Another one of the entities that I go through is CPS, child welfare. Every 6 months, the jail and the detentions officers and the detentions therapists. Unfortunately, they're not going to come to us, so we need to come to them, right? So again, we're just another resource and another tool for everybody.
Great recommendation. John, I think I saw you had your hand up. Did you want to share something?
Well, I was just going to say, right now I'm desperately trying to get a hold of someone in Delta County to be on the Fatherhood Coalition. So the question I would say, the thought is, does your fatherhood program have a child support representative on its advisory board or whatever it is that you do? It's just another way to ensure connection, and to get maybe some perspective on the child support side as to what is going on with the Fatherhood Coalition. Also, maybe an email address where you can get information to them. So, and vice versa.
Definitely. I want to go back in the chat a while ago. There was some discussion on the name Child Support Services versus Child Support Enforcement. So if folks missed that discussion in the chat, there was a question about if the name was changing, and Sarah informed us that Colorado is keeping the name Child Support Services. Federally, the name was changed, but the Colorado level of child support is committed to maintaining it as services, with the goal being for all parents and caretakers. So I just wanted to make sure if folks didn't see that in the chat, you're aware, which leads into my next question about what changes have you all seen recently, or do you foresee coming in the child support system, whether in terms of like policy or just in terms of more kind of trends and what you're seeing?
So I can take that. There's a change effective March 1st with the guideline worksheets determining child support. I'm assuming that's one of the things that you're thinking about, or talking about anyway. So coming March 1st, we'll have a new guideline program that basically is going to give credit for all overnight visitation that children have with a non-custodial parent. It has been for, forever, that they did not get credit, or the crediting did not come into play basically on the worksheet if they were 92 overnights or more with the non-custodial parent. So now, as of March 1st, we can give credit to them for every overnight they have, which would change the child support amount, or the proposed child support amount. It could change it. So we're not going to be working with like sole custody cases or split custody cases. It's going to be straight across. which that's one of the things that we've heard from non-custodial parents a lot is, well, I have my child like 50 overnights. Why don't I get credit? And that basically was the statute that was there, but they've changed that. So now that amount is going to change their amount of child support. And this would give a better reflection on what is financially fair to both parents in the long run, because when non-custodials have their children overnights, they still have to, still have that obligation to pay. They pay the child support, but they also have to pay the food and things that are going on when they're in their home. So this is going to make things just, I think, a little bit more fair, and we may end up having more happy, and I don't know if happy is the word, but more happy agreements in child support, figuring those than having us going to court and being a big fight between the parties on what the amount's going to be. So I think other than the new programming and stuff that we're going to be training on or have been trained on, I think this is going to be a good thing that's going to be positive to help those non-custodial parents have more fair orders and become more involved in their kids' lives as well.
I'll add that in relation to guidelines, there's also been an update to the child support schedule, which is basically the combined income of both parents and how much it is for, on basic need, each individual child, what that support amount is. So the schedule has been updated to be more current with the cost of living changes within the last decade. So that has also been a change, but the possibility of a legislative change can occur every year. And sometimes they impact child support and different parts of the program, but the potential for a legislative change every year is definitely possible. And then the state works with the feds to develop some sort of implementation schedule and how to process and implement those changes within each county. But that possibility is always there every year for legislative change.
Thank you.
This kind of parallels off the new guidelines that are coming out. Is that going to reduce a parent's child support if they have less than the majority overnights, or they have 50-50, or it's a 49-51 split, or what is the concept, or what is the reasoning to change the guidelines if it doesn't sway the dollar amount?
I believe the philosophy behind it is so that obligors or payers get credit for all the time that they are spending with their children, whether it's 52 nights a year, 12 nights a year. They get a percentage credit for each overnight spent, and it's kind of like on a tiered level. But the philosophy is that, I mean, when you incur costs for children in your care, that happens whether it's 92 overnights or 52 overnights. So overall, what they want to do is give you credit for each overnight spent, and it's on what's called an S curve. And it was built into some software that they just launched to us within the last couple weeks that we all have to take training for. But ultimately, there's no guarantee that it will reduce child support. You will get credit for the parenting time, but if your circumstances have changed since the last time the order was established or modified, that plays a factor. The updates to the child support schedule will also play a factor because now the cost of living has been updated to be more current. So it will really just depend. There's no guarantee now. We can't really estimate whether it will reduce or increase someone's obligation. The best recommendation is to just, request a modification and kind of go from there.
Actually, this all sounds really, really great to me because I'll be honest with you, I've felt for a long time that the cost of living calculation built into the guideline did not accurately reflect what people were actually spending to stay afloat, right? So this actually is really welcome news. and actually getting credit for parenting less than 92 days overnights is I think I'm really glad to see this. I no longer have access to ACES and can't run any guidelines. But I tell you what, if I was a child support worker, I'd be itching to get my hand on a guideline and run one, see how it changes.
Trust me, we're excited and it's been long overdue, both of those things. And every 4 years, there is a review of the guidelines and the low income adjustment and stuff like that, just to make sure it is fair and reasonable. But overall, the goal is to get right-sized orders that are achievable and reasonable for our parents to pay. In addition to all the services that we can try and offer them to co-parent and work together to support their kids, I mean, it's great news. We're really excited about it.
All right. There is a question in the chat about the Impacts program. I know we've talked a bit about the Impacts program, but would someone explain a little bit what that program is, particularly in regards to funding? Is it federally funded? And what does that funding expire? Or how is that working?
Do that. Can you hear me? This is Sarah. I am the Impacts Grant Manager at the state. We currently work with 11 counties across the state. Impacts is a parent employment program. It is designed and paid for through TANF funds, so it is funded through TANF. And it is designed to help non-custodial parties that are eligible to receive TANF. So they have to meet those TANF guidelines. They don't have to be receiving it, but they do have to meet those guidelines. And they are referred by the child support counties to various vendors. They all have different vendors, and we have a couple of models that actually do everything in-house. So it is not designed to be a very long-term program. You know, we want to get the non-custodial party to be able to do some barrier reduction, as well as possibly training, skills upgraded, as well as getting them on track to the child support. We don't, all of these counties have a form of fatherhood involved with it as well. And I firmly believe fatherhood and parent employment programs do go hand in hand. And I think you're far more successful. And I don't want to throw David under the bus, but I know David. He was actually in my caseload when I was in Parents to Work at Arapahoe County. And he has really he's demonstrated how important it is for dads to be aware and to really work towards to gaining access to their children. That also helps, as he stated, you know, it flipped the lens for him. To child support is really taking care of your child. It is a way for you to be connected to that child. So that's really what the Impacts program is. We do have a third party administrator. CPR does all of our data entry. And I'm really proud to say that almost everyone on this call, with the exception of David, are in the Impacts program. So they all work very hard to help these non-custodial parties and then also to meet the needs of the family.
Thanks so much, Sarah. So glad you were here to be able to add that perspective. That was really helpful. Thank you.
Love you, Sarah. Miss you.
I love you too, David.
All right. And with that, I will open it up to any other questions that folks have for our panelists. Oh, John, did you have something you wanted to add? Okay. Does anyone have any other questions for our panelists?
I did see another question in the chat from Princess, and it looks like you guys have connected through chat for some great resources, but just wanted to find out if she had any other questions. So, Princess.
Hi, team. Very informative. Love that. I wanted to understand, what does it look like when there is a child support order in one county and the parent lives in a different county and reports to his county his income, but not to the child support where the children reside in? because there seems to have been in one of the families that I'm working with is that the father reported the income because he receives benefits in Arapahoe County. But the children have a open child support case in Broomfield. So when he reported his income in Arapahoe County, I don't know if it was just a miscommunication for the inter-county transfer, but is he mandated to have reported that to Broomfield?
I can answer that question. So I think it would kind of depend on what stage Broomfield is at with their case. If it's vital enough to know to either establish or modify, he should definitely report it. But ultimately, if someone is reporting income to a benefits program, a lot of us child support workers, most child support offices have access to their benefits management system, which is CBMS. And we can go in and actually look at income verifications, certain type of benefits requests, case comments, and we can technically verify that way. But it wouldn't really be relevant unless one of the counties is trying to either establish or modify and have that reported income to calculate child support.
Thank you for that. And I just have one more question. What I've found with a lot of the fathers here is we're trying to navigate the system. And when there is a DV involved, and then there's parent alienation, and the father, just through, I guess, reporting or however it happens, is that they are denied legal aid services because there was a DV. So then the custody or the parenting time is always with the custodial parent. And it seems like some of the fathers that I'm working with are very frustrated because that DV charge holds lots of detrimental implications in their life, and so there is the problem with obtaining employment, parent alienation, and not being able to really support themselves or, let alone pay child support. So I'm just trying to understand, like really make some connections for those fathers, because now two of them are in a substance abuse treatment center. And I felt like this would have been an ideal platform to have them in this space to hear these things, because a lot of these substance abuse I'm finding are coming from the trauma of not being able to be involved in their children's lives, or it seems like once they have that DV charge, so many things are cut off to them.
So this isn't from a child support perspective. This is from parenthood, fatherhood perspective. I have fathers that I work with who have DVs. I have fathers in my support group who have CPS cases, right? Just because they have these does not mean they cannot get parenting. Of course, every case has all of its different factors, and so that all has to be taken into account. But it doesn't mean that they should be completely shut off from their children. I kind of feel like I'm wandering here now, but they need to know that there are resources, that just because they have had this doesn't mean they can't get past it and be able to have those connections with their children, because they can. I've seen it happen. It does happen, right? And the dads who are in the substance abuse and who have the misuse disorders, those programs are really good. I actually do a Nurturing Fathers program at a local rehab here in Denver. And a lot of those dads that are in that Nurturing Fathers class with us have been cut off from their children, some for a really, really long time. And what's really great about a lot of these programs is that they have caseworkers there who are helping them navigate and maybe get back to making connections. You know, I remember I had one father who came and he was writing a letter to his daughter who he hadn't talked to in probably a decade or so. And you know, it was really touching. And I was really hopeful for him. Now I wasn't able to follow him. He's not in my caseload. So I don't know how that went. But those programs are there to help them get back on track to doing that. The same as our fatherhood and parenthood programs do that too. And it's not an end of parenting, though I think for a lot of these guys, it feels like it. I don't know if that helps.
That does. And thank you so much, Bonnie. One of the other pieces I just wanted to put out there that I find frustrating is that you can, fathers have expressed to me that they can go and have a case initiated against them, but then it's hands off when it does come to custody and parenting. And a lot of times fathers are finding they have to come out of their own pocket, but human services is hands off. And they, you know, I really wanted to bring this forward because to me, it does a disservice to the children when fathers are on their own trying to navigate, but the initiation of a monetary case for the children can go right through human services, which seems to be pretty easy.
Princess, this is Sarah speaking. I understand and I think we all can feel that same frustration, but child support is not designed to enter into the parent relationship in regards to helping to establish parenting time. It seems like it goes hand in hand, and so we as child support caseworkers have to refer them to the court. However, that being said, there are so many legal um, legal resources out there, such, and I'll speak for Arapahoe County. They have an attorney that sits in and gives advice for free. I don't know what the schedule is now, but it used to be every other Friday. Arapahoe County even has for their participants and for the people that are in Arapahoe County, an attorney that comes once a month for legal advice. I think Denver has something similar. And so I think what you the best resource that your people that you're working with is if they have a child support case, they need to contact child support. They can tell them exactly what kind of resources are available in their county. They can refer them to different places and have different resources to get this because they do have to go through the court. They do have to have the court enter into it. And as Bonnie said, just because something happened in the past doesn't necessarily define who they are today. So, but that's up to them. They can also take advantage of the parenting classes, take advantage of the fatherhood workshops. You get certificates and you can file those in with your motions. So the courts look at these things, and so it really is going to fall to these dads to fight for their children, and their children want to know their dads are going to fight for them.
I'm going to do a shameless plug for ours. We have, sorry, we have a family law open forum that we facilitate every third Tuesday of the month. It's on Eventbrite. You can register. I send out the link. My coworker and I trade off facilitating that. We have an attorney with Denver County who is the attorney who answers the questions. We also have at Denver District Court on the first Thursday of every month, they have an Ask a Lawyer. I actually have Arapahoe County's flyer too. I actually keep a list of all of these different legal clinics and family law forums where fathers can attend and get help.
I love that. I'm hoping that all of these resources can be included. And I don't know if this is being recorded or however we would get that information. I would love that because I do go to the Substance Abuse Treatment Center. And what I am finding is that there are so many fathers that are there and really experiencing just being re-traumatized by trying to address the things the trauma that led them in some of these spaces, and then still feeling lost and hopeless. So I would love to connect with any resources that are out.
And for all of you who are sharing resources, we'll share my email at the end, but if you want to send them to me, I can send them out in my post webinar email. I'll send out the recording and I can include any resources that folks have in that as well. Selena, I see.
Chime in too. I often tell my parents there is a significant difference between child support and child custody. And we have to separate those two. Just because you're unable to afford your child support does not mean you don't get to see your children. And child support is not that tool or that resource to get you to see your children. That's where legal clinics come in. That's where the fatherhood programs come in. I mean, I am not an attorney, but I have done more APRs than I know what to do with, or amended APRs. That's where we start. And as I think Sarah was saying, attaching that certificate of completion of a fatherhood program to your change of allocation of parental rights is huge. It shows a commitment and a drive. And so when we're talking to our parents, we really, really need to say there is a difference between child support and child custody. Do not mix the two together. Two separate, they're in the same court case, but they are two separate completely.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a great point, Christina. And I would just want to jump in real quick because, Sarah said the word fight. And I remember talking with Sarah about my situation, and I was so sick of fighting. I was done fighting. I had seen a meme somewhere online that said, why don't fathers fight for their children more? And then the response to that was, why do they have to fight in the first place? And
That's true.
so I've been in the middle of it, right? I see the non-custodial party view and I see the custodial party view, and that's where that two-generation approach is very crucial because we have to advocate for fathers, mothers, children's, the entire family. But Sarah shared with me that if I don't like the word fight, I can assert my rights as a father. And I think that that's an important thing to recognize, that sometimes the fight is just really too hard to continue. But asserting our rights as fathers is important. And for me, I'm really asserting my right I'm asserting my son's right to have his dad in his life. So I just had to share that. Sorry.
I just want to go ahead and just kind of piggyback off of what Sarah and Christina said. Child support overall is completely and totally separate from child custody or parenting time, visitation, allocation of parental responsibilities. To put it as in the most simple terms, the child support office, the child support program does not have jurisdiction, the authority to address parenting time, custody, visitation, rights, parental rights. Our sole purpose, although your parenting time does affect how much child support you pay or don't pay, they are two separate things. And trust me, we would like to collaborate there and have the authority to do it. And it does vary from county to county, because there are some counties who have on-site mediation services. There are some counties who will offer the bridge to get that addressed and put with your child support order so that it's all in one thing. But they are completely separate. Simply put, we don't have the authority to address, touch, order custody, visitation, or parenting time.
But we will offer you, I'm sorry, Bonnie,
go ahead,
I was
go
just
ahead.
going to say, we will offer you every resource we have available to get you to that point. So we can't give you legal advice, but we'll push it right up to the edge to get you where you need to go. It's really important. And that goes back to what David said earlier, the communication. We as child support personnel also need to communicate. We need to be willing to share our knowledge, and sometimes you have that conversation 19, 20 times a day. Almost like you could basically do a recording, because you're going to say the same thing over and over. But to every father and even mom that's fighting this, these are valuable tools for them. And I don't remember telling David to assert himself, but I probably did at some point because I talk a lot. So
So this is where the child support workers, and I don't know if this is still a thing. So I have to be honest with you, I do not know. But when I was working in child support, there was a program through the ODR that was a service, a mediation service for parents to get parenting orders, parenting plans put into place. The stipulation back when I pulled this into Denver County Child Support was that the parents had to be parents, but never married, right? So they had never had a divorce, all right? Then working through the ODR, they were able to get mediators at no cost. And they were able to get parenting plans put together, and working with our attorneys in child support in Denver County, I was able to get those parenting plans then filed into their child support cases. I don't know if that still exists. I don't work in child support anymore, and that was specifically a child support thing through the ODR. I'm throwing it out there because if you haven't heard of it or haven't seen it, you might want to look for it.
I think Denver still does that, and
Do they?
Arapahoe does that.
Okay.
And ideally, it's done at the time of the establishment of the order. And that way, they have the most correct information to make it a right-sized order. If they can't come to an agreement, then the mediator will give them a letter of memorandum, basically an understanding that they didn't come to an agreement, and oftentimes those will have to go to court.
Yeah.
But we did in Arapahoe. Can you tell I was from Arapahoe for a long time, but I know Denver was doing it at the same time because we were using the same mediators.
Yeah.
All right, we are just about out of time, so I am going to have to end the conversation there. It was really, really great conversation though, so I'm so glad we were able to talk through that all. But I do want to share a link to our survey. You can scan the QR code on the screen, or Shauna will put the link in the chat. Please do let us know your feedback from this session. This is how we ensure that what we are providing is useful to you all. So we really appreciate any feedback that you can provide. Um, I also want to share time for more connection. So we had a lot of really great connection during this meeting today. And our next connection point will be our convening in March. Shauna is going to drop the registration link for that in the chat. And that will be a little bit more of a discussion. We'll be talking about how the Colorado Fatherhood Network can support our members through data and evaluation. So if you are interested in that, please do join. Even if you're not that interested in data, we will still have some time to just network with others and stay connected with folks who are working with fathers around the state. And then finally, I do want to encourage you all to sign up for our e-newsletter that is on our website that we shared earlier. But on that website is the place to sign up for our e-newsletter. That's where we'll share information about trainings coming up, any helpful resources, any of our events that we are doing. And if you have resources to share, please do email them to me. Like we talked about earlier too, if you shared about resources today and are willing to share any of that with this group, you can also send that to my email, and I will share it out with everybody. Just you all have so many great resources, and so we want to be able to share those with folks who are working around the state. And with that, I really appreciate you all for being here. Especially appreciate our panelists. It was so great to hear from you all and learn so much about child support. And I hope to see you all next month. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. This was